So my perspective, I've been at the Daily News for 14 years now, and walking through the newsroom 14 years ago, I mean, it was a battle just to find a seat. Right now, it's a little different. There's economic realities. We've had downsizing, layoffs, et cetera, et cetera. So it is a challenge to have such a reduction of resources, but still produce, fine journalism. And kind of, as Arthur said earlier, one of the solutions to those challenges, I think, has been some collaboration. And obviously, if it works, it can work. Because last month, we were on the same stage accepting the Public Service Pulitzer Prize.
I'm curious about this idea of collaboration. It seems like as we have fewer and fewer resources, collaboration is going to become more important. But how do you avoid diluting that trust when you're collaborating with multiple different newsrooms? There's so much sort of insidious distrust of journalism in general. And, if you partner with the quote unquote wrong newsroom, then you might lose this group of readers and that group of readers. And how do you maintain that trust while all working together?
Think about that is at the end of the day, this is like, look at the fucking story, basically, right? Is the story good? Are the facts good? If X or Y journalism organization helped us to bring that to life, and that would be the only reason we would collaborate with. But I think it's the journalism that matters.
I would just say that the ground is moving under us all the time, and it's different now than it was 3 years ago. And I think collaboration is urgent and incredibly important on the national scene, on the local scene. And we sort of have to get over the suspicions about each other and do the good work that needs to be done.
I think I sympathize more with your question than these guys. In one hand, I do think, like Eric says, that this isn't fundamentally a branding exercise, and if the story's true, it doesn't really matter where it came from. But that said, the kind of collaboration that I find that really satisfying right now is in the context of very intense competition. If you look at the national security beat right now, you have what's nice is that if you are a beat reporter on the FBI right now, and one of your competitors breaks a story, your job is not to, over the course of the next 8 hours, to match that story, which is what it used to be. It's to advance it whenever you can. And so there's this kind of, it's not exactly collaboration because they hate each other and are furious when the other person gets a story, but there is this kind of building of a collective body of knowledge. But part of that is also going really hard after what seems to be a false report and knocking it down. But that is there is sort of a sense that you're working toward a common purpose that was always kind of true in reporting, but is now so visible.
What would be your most successful collaboration for something in the philanthropic sector, and what did you learn from that collaboration, and what do you think could be improved on that?
I think one of the challenges actually for I think ProPublica and I think a bunch of other people is they get a lot of funding from nonprofits, from foundations. Mm-hmm. So they're not doing a lot of reporting about that.
Mm-hmm. I will say one exception. Well, we did a very long series over a number of years about the Red Cross.
In a different example, which I love, is that the Washington Post is now working with local newspapers in cities in mid-America to offer free. If you subscribe to the Journal Sentinel, you get a free subscription to the Washington Post, and I think that's brilliant.
Yeah, that's great.
When you're working on these collaborations and conflicts inevitably arise about whose story it is, whose style it's going to follow, which side is going to win if there's a major disagreement that comes up, what are some of the ways that you've found for resolving those things?
I know this is going to surprise you, but there were a couple wrinkles along the way when we were working with ProPublica, but we're all very professional. We had some discussions and we just ironed it out. It's the same thing if we had some in-house issue. It would be the same.
And new partners sometimes say, well, where's the contract? What are we going to sign for the partnership? And the answer to that is, if you want to sign something, we can sign something. But typically, it's simply about trust and respect.
One thing in terms of when the Daily News and ProPublica collaborated on the nuisance laws and won the Pulitzer. It was also a case where the work that ProPublica did in terms of doing a lot of the data management, in terms of the spreadsheets, providing those resources were something that were not available at the Daily News, that we would not have been able to do it. And so, in some cases, you've just got to find the partners that have the resources and develop that trust to make it happen, because otherwise there's some stories that just would not happen.
Could I ask a follow-up, though, because I'm curious? It seems to me that for Tina and Eric, you guys sometimes give a kind of stamp of approval to organizations by collaborating with them. So, what if Breitbart called you up and wanted to do an investigation with you? Or Mother Jones. It's not in parallel, but you must draw the line somewhere, right? And aren't you... how do you draw the line of who you're allowed to collaborate with?
Here's, honestly, I can actually show you the list I have in the back of the blacklisted news organization. No, it's not true.
No, but it should be, right?
So right. But I would also say that the generally speaking, we look to say, is the news organization providing reliable information? If it's not providing reliable information, that's going to knock a bunch of people out who, because of maybe they're more politically oriented or whatever, would knock them out. It's, at the end of the day, we are an evidence-based journalism organization, like most journalism organizations are. But that is our foundational thing. We're about evidence. So the question is the news organization about evidence? And that's the real question that we ask ourselves.
We have this misconception as journalists that trust is the same. People will trust us if we're accurate. And I don't think that's true. I think people trust us because they think they have their back, or we're on their side, or we care about them. They don't care what you know unless they know what you care. And this kind of transparency, showing your work, bringing readers in, asking people for their stories, I think it's hugely trust building, I think.